Hey, what's up? Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Roots podcast. Today, I want to talk about the expansion of the Spanish Empire. What were some of the motives behind it? And more importantly, what propelled people to push forward? Because many of us, we also have indigenous ancestry. We don't think beyond, our hometowns in Mexico. Where my family's from in Michoacan, we have Purepecha ancestry. So part of my ancestors have been in Michoacan for, perhaps thousands of years. So when you think about your family history and you think of your ancestors, the word pioneer doesn't come to mind right away. But on the Spanish side of your ancestry, there is a pioneering legacy. And there's, also a legacy of expansionism. So let's talk about that. Now, of course, when we think of these expeditions, we imagine, these men in search of gold, which was, for the most part true. These people were looking for riches and they were looking to, find new places to settle. They were, these were young men, right? So they were out there looking for conquest. But behind every single one of these expeditions, including with Columbus, right? He was looking for a trade route to Asia. Behind every one of these expeditions, there's a story of what they were looking for. There's something that motivated them to push forward because, they were quite literally going into places that had never been seen before by Europeans. So they didn't know what to expect. So there was usually something like a rumor or some sort of goal behind what they were doing. The explorer Juan Ponce de Leon, for example, he was looking for, new lands that would eventually be outside of the jurisdiction of Christopher Columbus. And so he sailed, from the Caribbean northward, and he entered into what is now Florida. And that's how, that became part of the Spanish Empire. And of course, there's a much longer story of how Florida became incorporated into the Spanish Empire. But, that really was, the first foot in the door, if you will. Hernan Cortes, the guy who led the conquest of the Aztecs, and Francisco Pizarro, the guy who led the conquest of the Incas, they were, exploring based off of rumors of these, mighty, wealthy empires. And eventually they found those two empires, the Aztec Empire and the Incan Empire. Now, they really never found any other empires in the Americas that reached that level of wealth. And so many more conquistadors tried to find wealthy empires and try to replicate what Cortes and Pizarro did. They never ended up finding those empires. Some turned out to be rumors. For example, the Spaniards had a legend that went back as far as the 8th century. And according to this legend, there was an island somewhere where these 7 cities existed, and these 7 cities were made of gold. And so, in the collective imagination, these were the lost 7 cities of gold. And so over time, after the Spaniards had already settled in Mexico, there began to be rumors spreading around that these lost 7 cities were actually on the North American continent.